I think the investing lesson from 2022 has been staying the course, and it has been a super challenging environment to stay the course because the whole of 2022 has been periods and bouts of volatility, and that is difficult for investors to stomach. So stay the course in 2023, I guess.
Well, I think probably the main thing is that given enough time, almost anything could happen, and things that we view as very unlikely scenarios, it's surprising how often they pop up and occur over time. So I think always being cognizant of the fact that just because we've had a period of relative stability or a period of certain things happening doesn't mean that that's going to persist indefinitely. And I think 2022, following on already from a COVID shock and then Russia's invasion of Ukraine, two things on the back of each other, which have just set circumstances that no one was anticipating. So always good to have a base sort of view on what's going to happen, but then be aware also that other things can happen either to the upside or to the downside. So
I think the key lessons for retirees from this year, the main one is that the RBA and others, you can't rely on their advice and forecasts solely. So you really need to do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Second of all, bond prices do fall. After a 30-year bull market, bonds plummeted this year, and that surprised many, including retirees, and impacted them greatly. Thirdly, that the 60-40 portfolio, which has been a mainstay for investors for a long time, has come unstuck this year as well. The stocks and bonds have gone down at the same time for the first time in a very long time. So that's another thing that has surprised retirees too. The fourth one would be that last year's winners often turn out to be this year's losers, whether it be stocks, if you look at the tech sector, which has been a great performer for many years, including last year. It's been the worst performer for many markets this year. And similarly for equity funds that have been star performers in previous years have come back to earth this year. So they're probably the four key lessons for retirees from this year.
I think the big lesson that investors learned this year and are going to continue to learn as we go forward is that fundamentals actually matter. And we really lost sight of that. With all of the stimulus that occurred during COVID, with really, really low interest rates, people forgot some of the foundations of investing, that valuation levels are impacted by interest rates, that when you are investing in the share market, you are investing in a company, and that company needs to generate earnings, or at least there has to be some sort of pathway for that company to generate earnings. So a lot of the really speculative parts of the market got hit really, really hard. Many investors have paid the price from forgetting about fundamentals and forgetting about what they're investing in. So the important thing is to break this mindset. Investors are having a challenging time doing this. And we see this when central banks are pretty consistent that interest rates are going to be higher and they're going to keep going up, and the market continues to not believe them. And a lot of this is wishful thinking, and wishful thinking that we'll go back to that same environment we're in. But what we would suggest here at Morningstar is once again, go back and look at what you're investing in. Realize that there are relationships between interest rate levels and valuation levels. Realize that ultimately what will drive the share price over the long run is going to be earnings growth. And also realize that as investors, we get returns from quaint little things like dividends. And it's really important to think about where those returns are coming from in your portfolio. So hopefully this has been a year where you can take some of the lessons that you learned and apply them to make you a better investor going forward. And of course, Morningstar will always be here to support you in that.
Any advice in this video is general advice or regulated financial advice under New Zealand law prepared by Morningstar Australasia Proprietary Limited and or Morningstar Research Limited. without reference to your financial objectives, situation, or needs. You should consider the advice in light of these matters and any relevant product disclosure statement before making any decision to invest. To obtain advice for your own situation, contact a financial advisor.